Hello, and it has been a huge week for childhood idols as not only does Ash Ketchum finally become Pokemon Champion of the World, but Messi indeed lifts the World Cup. It's what we all wanted. Welcome to the Anglo-Italian pod. As always, my name is Rory. I'm joined by my very good friend,
Adam, hey Rory,
Adam.
how are
I never get the
you?
direction right. I never get the
It's all
direction.
good. It's all good. It's all good. But it's the last ever live stream of 2022. Where has the year gone by, mate?
As I often say to my students when they look bored in the classroom, time flies when you're having fun, guys.
It
Time
does.
flies when you're having fun. I can't believe it. We didn't know how we'd get through this World Cup. It was a lot of work looking at it as we kind of faced up to it. We were like, okay, are we ready? Are we really ready for this? Because it's going to be intense. And guys, it was intense, but it was incredible. An unbelievable tournament in general, an unbelievable final. I think we're going to talk about where we see it in the kind of pantheon of World Cups. I might not agree with Infantino necessarily. But in general, what would you say in terms of like the entertainment value, Adam?
I think it's been amazing. Like in terms of the quality of the tournament, I think it's been up there with the best. I mean, I think back to the group stages, and I think that has been the most exciting group stages I've seen for a number of World Cups.
Yeah.
Like I don't know about you, but I feel like the quality of every side, whether they've been African sides, Asian sides, coming into this, I think it's been genuinely exciting. Like even when we had that shock of Saudi Arabia beating Argentina, I thought even at that point, you had to give them kudos. It wasn't like they actually, didn't deserve it or they fluked it. It was absolutely magnificent. If anything, the European side's really disappointed on this occasion, but we'll talk about it in depth, I'm sure, with some of our guests, right, Rory?
Well, today is a bit of a mad one, guys. So we have tried to gather everybody that we had in our World Cup preview videos. We tried to gather them in one place so we can do a review. So there's going to be people coming and going, hopefully staying. They don't have to leave once we've finished with them. They can stay, open a beer, relax. We've made it. The World Cup is finished, and it has been incredible. We're going to start talking about the game before we bring in our first guest. Well, Adam, it's done. Messi hat trick, Mbappe hat trick. Was it a Messi hat trick? No, Messi 2.
No,
Mbappe.
Messi 2, but Mbappe scored the hat trick. Yes.
Mbappe got the hat trick, but it was to no avail as Messi lifted it. And I think we could agree that the first 70 minutes, not the greatest game ever, right? Not the best game we've ever seen. I feel like I was very much,
I think, but yeah.
I feel I was very much like talking to my mates up until a certain point, then everybody stopped talking.
Yes, yeah, there was points where I think it looks like Argentina had kind of gone for the shut up shop approach as soon as they scored the second goal. Especially, I think, and I'm going to allude to it, but Scaloni's kind of substitution of Di Maria seems to be the kind of pinnacle point of where maybe the game changed in terms of momentum. Because certainly from my point of view, I think that attacking outlet from Di Maria was really clever, but he almost wanted to replace it like for like, and he went quite defensive, I think, to shut up shop. And then as soon as that happened, alongside Kingsley Coman coming on, obviously Kolo Muani had a good kind of start to the game as soon as he's brought on. And I'm sure we'll allude to Deschamps as well in terms of that bold kind of substitution, because I think that was really like, I didn't agree with it necessarily at the time, but you have to give kudos to the fact that he had the balls to kind of do it at that kind of environment as well. And yeah, the game shifted as soon as Mbappe got that penalty. And then 2 minutes later, from Leo Messi losing the ball, he scored a fantastic goal to equalise. And I think it just changed the momentum of the game. And I did genuinely feel Argentina were going to lose it. What were your thoughts at that point?
Yeah, I've thought the whole way through that Argentina were quite an emotional team, and when I saw them, like we've talked about the highs and lows, and could a team survive a low when they have such highs? And when they kind of got pulled back by 2 goals, I thought, oh, they're going to shag this now, and it's going to be France winning it, and it's going to be like this generations of like nightmares and chips on shoulders in Argentina. I really thought they were going to fall apart, but I think there was one player, many players, but one player in particular who kept them in it. That save from Martinez, that he made some incredible saves. He is just an absolute mentality monster. He's a bit of a loose cannon, but he just turned up at the big moments absolutely killed it. But I think, yeah, it was a game. I think both managers just did incredibly well. I think, as you kind of alluded to, Deschamps did, like, bringing Camavinga on absolutely changed the game. I think he and at the time he took off Griezmann, right? And I thought, oh, that's a bold one. That's a very, very bold one. But Camavinga playing that left back, none of us thought he could do left back. He played a kind of left back midfield role. He played incredibly. I thought as we saw him do at Real Madrid in the Champions League this year a lot, he came off the bench and changed the game. And I thought that was incredibly good management from Deschamps. The two ballsy substitutes in the first half, taking off Giroud and Coman, right? Dembele. Well, he had an absolute Hall of Shame performance.
Stinker. Absolute stinker, that's fair to say.
It's still very ballsy for Deschamps to do that. And I think Scaloni, the stroke of genius he had, Di Maria hasn't played throughout this tournament. Drop him in the big game straight away. You knew in a final that he was going to turn up. And he was going to have a big moment. Now, our first guest, guys, has just arrived, and I think we can hear him out. He's here.
He's here.
I love the intro.
We had to.
Well, our commiserations, Jeremy. How are you feeling this morning?
I'm okay. I'm slowly digesting. As you can see, I feel like when we only had one star and we had to lose in 2006 to the Pens as well. So I bought my jacket with one star to reminisce myself of it's okay. 12 years later, we can win again.
That's a very healthy outlook. I was expecting a bit more like, how was it last night? It was an incredible game, right? Were you able to enjoy it?
I tend to agree with what you guys were saying to start the pod. The first 60 minutes, I'm like done at the end of my couch, texting my mate, telling them I know I said France was going to win. I don't know what's going on. We're just not playing. There was zero shot, not even mentioning on target. There was not even one shot until the 64th minute, I think. And then magic happens. I feel like I was watching an episode of Captain Tsubasa. You can't write that. It was, 2 goals by the two best players in the world, and then at the last minute, the kid who's supposed to take over scores another one, and then there's the hat trick. You can't write this stuff. I think it was one of the best finals that I've ever watched, probably, and I've watched quite a few, even back before I was born. So it was a great game. At the end of the day, I think if France had won that one, I wouldn't have walked proud. I would have walked like, I guess we edged it out, and I guess this is what France is. You win whatever happens, but some way I think football won, and the way Argentina played the first hour, they kind of deserved to have the win. Like to what Adam was saying, Scaloni's masterclass was putting Di Maria in there and harassing Koundé and Dembele. And then when Scaloni removes Di Maria, then all of a sudden France actually can play football because they're not that stretched anymore. So that's how we were able to come back. And of course, thanks to the genius of Mbappe and the energy that Kolo Muani brought in. But I don't think France deserved at any point to actually win, if only for Mbappe. So I guess football won.
I think so. I think it was it felt like everybody who wasn't French wanted Argentina to win, really. I think everyone was like on Messi's side, right? But Muani is a really interesting one. He's a player who was released last year, right? Picked up by Frankfurt. And we were talking about earlier in the pods, Adam, about how his stats aren't particularly fantastic, but he's actually had a pretty key role in some big moments in this tournament. Has he surprised you, Jeremy, or?
Definitely surprised me. He wasn't released. He just didn't sign a new contract with Nantes, so he could go on for free. Because he's the year before in summer, they wanted to sell him, but they wouldn't accept less than 15 million, and he had an offer for 12 million, and that didn't go down well for him. So he'd rather leave on the free than sign a new contract for Nantes, and that's how he went to Frankfurt. But he played against Marseille this year, so I've seen him play in club for Frankfurt as well, and he's really developing as this player that is, not necessarily an striker, or more like an Nkunku style of forward who actually likes to drop down, gets the ball, doesn't mind being on one wing or the other, or even in the middle, but wants to touch a lot of the football. And as we could see when he got in with Argentina, doesn't mind, if he has to. I think his first 2 appearances in the game is 2 fouls. Doesn't mind to get in when he has to get in, and then doesn't mind trying to get as many good deflection as possible because he just isn't afraid of the fight, and that's what he brought. I think it took a while to actually show up because he comes in before early in the second half.
Yeah.
But before he comes in, Thuram's improvement didn't bring anything. Even Coman didn't bring anything. But then when Colomani comes in, it kind of gelled everybody together. I was afraid when Colomani comes in because the French team looks like a 4-2-4 with zero creativity. But I guess it won.
Jeremy, I wanted to ask you about Mbappe and where he plays, right? So obviously down that left-hand side, he's frightening. But I think in the last game, we saw maybe kind of preference in terms of his style where he was kind of moved into the middle as soon as like a few players were being rested. Now, I wonder whether you feel like maybe if he played there against Argentina, he would have been much more of a threat, because thinking about the pace of Otamendi as well as particularly Romero, I think there could have been occasions where maybe the French could have attacked that. And I do wonder, and I'll get your thoughts on Deschamps later, but I do wonder whether Deschamps kind of lacked ideas around how to maybe break down this Argentinian defense as well as the team, because it wasn't just the defense, it was the team. It was all about people around them kind of making it more difficult for the French. And do you think maybe the kind of first 20 to 25 minutes surprised Deschamps? Because obviously about 10 minutes later, he brings off Giroud, which I think Giroud himself was quite shocked at. What was your natural kind of thoughts at that very moment? Because personally, I didn't understand the substitution.
I think you had two different trajectories, France and Argentina, where you had Argentina starting all the way down there as it's one player, Messi, and everybody plays for him they're becoming a team, they're becoming a team, they're becoming a team. And then the pinnacle of that is the final. And France starts as we're a great team, everybody is good. And thankfully we got Mbappe. And well, I guess now we're just Mbappe. And I think, my preview of the final was Argentina is Messi and France is a team. And so France has better chances to win because France is a team. But then turns out that during the final, Argentina turns up as, Alexis McAllister. If you've never heard of him before, you want him to go to Real Madrid or Barcelona. Enzo Fernandez, we already know how good he is, but he's showing up every single week. And now he's probably going to have his big move as well. You had and Rodrigo de Paul, everybody knows the kind of player that he is.
Of course.
But it's in Argentina, you got all those players who are number 10, all technically, and are being told, forget a little bit about your technical ability, learn how to become a bit more of a dog. And in France, it's a bit of the other way around. Okay, you're a very physical guy. Can you please learn how to play football now? And so I think it was a bit of a poetry how the game went, because Argentina really played as a team. And I think that probably surprised Deschamps, because I think Deschamps came in with that mentality of, guys, it's a final, keep your heads cool. You have to manage the momentum. We know that they're going to be very strong at first, but we know we can score anytime. And Argentina went in being like, guys, it's all about emotions. Just leave those emotions. Just bring it all to start with, and you're going to get rewarded. And then when it goes down, we'll find more emotions to come back in. Deschamps lost on that battle, obviously, and I'm surprised and pleasantly surprised about the changes before halftime, because poor Dembele, sure, he had a stinker, but the guy's not a right back. Dembele is known to be this street player who's here to provoke, dribble, and create chaos. And now we told him, you need to be able to defend. And yes, Di Maria is going to be getting all the balls now. Go down there and defend for him. And what happened? A penalty, because it's not his job. It's not his role. So getting him out and getting Giroud out, I think, was a good move at that point, because nothing was going on. And because in semi-final, when you get Giroud out and you bring Thuram on the left, then there's more defensive ability on the left, because Deschamps confessed that he doesn't want Mbappe to defend, that he told Mbappe, don't worry about the defensive tasks, worry about getting the ball up, and when you get the ball, just do your magic. Which, again, to the point that I was making, France showed not to be a team, but to be Mbappe. And if you develop that, in 2018, if you don't have Mbappe, maybe you never get to where you get from the game against Argentina to the very end. And now 2021 at the Euro, even though we sucked in against Switzerland, it's him and Benzema who bring the team. And now 2022, if you don't have Mbappe, you're probably not there where you are as well. 10 goals. I mean, when's the last time a football player has scored 10
It's
goals in the World
ridiculous.
Cup and the kid's
Yeah,
23.
it's insane.
So
It's insane.
I think we've learned something about us, about our team. We've been confirmed what we know about Deschamps and the fact that he's all about man management and not necessarily about great tactics. And I guess we'll see what that brings us. But Giroud must have been surprised, but also he wasn't doing anything in the first 40 minutes. So
yeah, it's kind of. I was watching it, and I was like, I've not heard either of their names be mentioned. I've not heard Mbappe once. I've not heard Giroud once. I feel like it was really like, I love Olivier Giroud. I really did feel really bad for him getting hooked like that early, but I think it did show a bit of tactical nous from Deschamps, right? It did surprise me that he was able to do that and he was ballsy enough to do it. But he also took off Griezmann, right? We were talking about it before you got here. He took off Griezmann, brought on Camavinga, and I was saying that at Real Madrid, Camavinga is able to change games. Like, he had a huge impact for France, I think. Like, he's another player that's like crazy exciting in that midfield, right?
As bad a final as good was his tournament. I think it was player of tournament up until the final, and then in the final they completely nullified him. Whether it was again the work of Fernandes, De Paul, and McAllister, or just that he wasn't in the best shape emotionally and physically, but he couldn't do anything. I think the reaction of Deschamps changing that is recognizing that Griezmann is not doing it right now, that Theo Hernandez is not taking his wing at all. So there's no cross that are going to come. The first cross, I think, is 57th minute or something like that. So then you don't need Giroud if you're not going to bring any crosses. That Koundé is struggling. So I think that was recognizing all this. Oh, sorry, my camera has gone. I think it was recognizing all this, but also.
It's the first technical hiccup, guys. It's the first technical hiccup. We've already had a guest kind of disappear who I'm begging to come back. We'll see if he does return. But I think he can join us again. We do also need to talk about Argentina a little bit, Adam. I think
we will
talked about how great they were and how impressive they were. The second goal in particular was a beautiful move, right? Incredible.
Yeah.
Move.
Incredible kind of intricate passing, and started off with Molina obviously gathering the ball, passing it to Martinez, and then you had five of them kind of move into position. So McAllister touching it off onto the side, I can't remember, and it was play off with Messi, and then Alvarez through ball to a McAllister, who then sees obviously Di Maria in the corner of his eyes, slides it in, and Di Maria just shoots it perfectly, because not only does he get the angle, but he bounces it off the ground. And I think that's the thing that gets missed, because, some players might go straight into corner and that might be saved by Lloris. But in that occasion, fantastic job, in fairness to Di Maria. And I think
it's that Ozil finish. Yeah. Ozil, the video of Ozil where he cuts it into the ground. It's the Ozil finish. Yeah, I thought Argentina, genuinely, I was surprised at how ruthless they were. He's back. He is back. Jeremy, you're here. We were talking about Camavinga, I think.
Yes, my computer is externalizing what I'm feeling inside. I think is what happened.
But we'll get back to Camavinga. How excited are you about him as a player? I think Real Madrid have done so well to snap him up so quickly. He just changes games when he comes on, right?
He does, and tying to Camavinga, I think is the one mistake of Didier Deschamps. Get Camavinga in the midfield, and I think the game is probably yours for the taking, because what he did as a left back when Theo Hernandez is tired, imagine if he had done that replacing Rabiot, who was equally tired when he removes Hernandez, and I think he could have brought so much more. He's just a fearless kid. He's not afraid of the game that he's playing. I mean, he's showing it at the Champions League final. Now he's showing it in the World Cup final. He's got the maturity, the technique. He'll get stuck in. He is a very special talent, and I think he helped again France bringing a bit more of that domination at the end of the game and during the extra time. But yeah, too little, too late, and not in his right position. I think bringing him in the middle, and it would have been pretty complicated for Argentina to resist.
Yeah, nice. Well, Jeremy, we're going to talk about your kind of moments of the tournaments, goals of the tournaments, and kind of take a look back on the tournament as a whole. If you had to pick one player from France who would have been your player of the tournament? I think it's quite tough. I've got kind of two in my head, but who would you have as your player of the tournament for France?
Well, before the final, it would have been Griezmann, but with the final, it's Mbappe, I think. Before the final, I thought the importance of Griezmann, and I always like a player of the shadows. It was impressive coming down as an 8 or 6 because he realized that Tchouaméni wasn't quite up where he was supposed to be, that Rabiot had ups and downs, that Fofana wasn't up what he used to be. So Griezmann recognizing that's where our weakness is and that's where I'm going to go. And sure, I'm a former number 10 forward goal scorer, and now I'm going to be the best number 6 you have. Even Pogba posted that Instagram post where it says Griezmann Kante, because that's what Griezmann was playing. So up until then, it was him. But you can't get past Kylian Mbappe when you see what he does in the final, single-handedly bringing France back into that game and almost giving them the win. And, no small feat, but scoring 3 penalty kicks, not 1, 3 penalty kicks to a goalkeeper who's so good at getting into players' heads. So I think Mbappe is probably the one. He deserves it.
I think on that last point as well, considering the last penalty shootout was against Switzerland where he missed it, that was huge redemption for Mbappe. And I think it shows the growth that he's kind of matured from that tournament as well. But I was also going to shout out quickly, Jeremy, a player that we've been stating for a lot of times on this pod because of his connections with Juventus, Rabiot. He turned up for the French team. You got to give his kudos. He did really well as well, right?
Yeah, he did really good. You saw in Morocco what France with Rabiot and without Rabiot is. And I think same thing, right? Shows the maturity of the kid who didn't want to play 4 years ago because he was in the reserves. And we know what players from the reserves have done this year to realizing what was asked of him to play and to have no issues doing the work the way it was supposed to be done. At first, when he came in, I thought he was going to be that Matuidi 2018 who doesn't play his actual role and becomes a left winger. But then actually he was the guy who was supposed to compensate for Mbappe not defending, yet being a bit of that deep lying, playmaker who was involved a lot. I mean, at Juventus this year is probably the one player who's been consistent and performing all through. And so I think it was a nice progression. It was almost what you expect from a World Cup at this time of the year. Player slowly getting up to their level and hitting peak at the tournament. I think Rabiot was that. He was definitely special.
That's quite funny.
Yeah, we got a comment from Indrahari 1908. Mbappe doesn't want to hear Rabiot's mother nagging if he misses the penalty. Well, it seems like she's quite busy now being his mother agent, as the Premier League seems to be calling for Rabiot. I have seen Arsenal linked to him. I was like, please, no, not off the back of a World Cup. Just leave him, please, leave him. Let someone else grab that guy. The next question is your favorite goal of the tournament. We'll go with your favorite France goal and then your favorite goal in general of the tournament.
The favorite France goal, I feel like there's one against Denmark that was great, but I don't think I can get past that goal from Mbappe yesterday. Just the sheer balance, obviously the importance of that goal. And it's funny because to me, it's a goal that comes off a couple of bad decisions. I mean, sure, great work from Coman stealing the ball off the feet of Messi. But then the next 2 passes, I feel aren't the right passes to get to where you want to go. That pass from Rabiot is a weirdly high one when you should have just playing fit. But then it brings the header from Mbappe, the perfect pass from Thuram to Mbappe. And you're in the corner of the box. The ball is behind you. You can't volley it perfectly. And you're going to try and get the right balance to get it right and to score. That's you got to say great. So that would be the goal of the tournament, I think, for me, for France.
Nice. And what about from in general? What do you think is the best goal of the tournament?
I don't know why I can't get off my head the goal from Abu Bakar from Cameroon. The little, as we call it.
That's mine, honestly. Oh, what a goal. And such a great moment. Even if they went out, it was such a beautiful moment. The way the referee apologized as he sent him off, everything about it was just beautiful, right? It was just beautiful.
Yeah, I think I know that there's a few great goals. There was a bicycle kick that I remember, and obviously that goal from Argentina, the second goal was just a FIFA goal where you know that you can always pass the ball at the far post and somebody's going to come and get it in. But yeah, I think that goal from Abu Bakar was special for a lot of reasons. He knew it was his last game, so he was just here for the fans.
Exactly.
For the fans' pleasure.
Yeah.
Beautiful. We do have a shout from the chat. Richarlison
Yeah.
overhead kick is my pick from ASC Finners. Absolute banger of a goal that. As long as he never ever does it for Spurs, I'll be absolutely fine. But the Adam, I'm getting lost. What was the other question we were asking? There's a lot going on.
I think we'll ask what was your favourite game so far of this tournament as well.
It would have been one of those games, Japan or Saudi Arabia turning their fate around. But that final, I don't think you can top up that final.
Yeah.
I don't think you can top a 6-goal thriller with the way it was played, the two best players in the world facing each other. I don't think we've had a final this entertaining since maybe 86 or something like that, when it was 3-2.
Yeah.
But yet, Argentina was up front and West Germany was trailing back then. So I think the final ends up being the best game. Yeah, the close seconds would have been Japan making it back when they were almost out of the group, and Saudi Arabia starting the World Cup with a shocker.
Yeah, that
nice.
Was beautiful, wasn't it?
Good. I think, guys, and Jeremy, you can feel free to stay. You can stay as long as you like. I think there's someone at the door. And he's here, Evra. Welcome back to the show to talk all World Cup and Cameroon. How we do, man? You good?
I'm good. Nice being here with you guys, and thank you for inviting me again.
No, it's great to see you, man. Oh, that's my dog. Sorry. Did you enjoy the final yesterday? What did you think of the final?
The final was a great final. It was everything that we could ever expect of a final. We had the goals, we had the tension. At the end of the game, at the end of the 120 minutes, just before the penalties, I made a tweet and I said, ladies and gentlemen, now you can breathe, because everybody was suspended for a very long while. In the first half, we thought everything would be that easy for Argentina, but by the time Didier Deschamps could run the changes from the 40th minute, bringing in Thuram and Colomwani, things really changed for France. But I was surprised, getting almost into halftime, I saw Didier Deschamps turning to his assistant, Guy Stéphane, and if you could look at his mouth, he was telling him that when you look at the game, even Grisou, he said even Grisou he isn't part of the game. So I didn't expect France to come back that strong. And I give a lot of credit to Didier Deschamps, because before France has had a little bit of jinx in this World Cup. Injuries upon injuries. Yeah. Some key players, Pogba, Kante, Benzema, the Ballon d'Or, and in the midst of that, he could still pick a group, and he could still bring that group to the World Cup, and not just to the World Cup, right up to the final. And not just in the final, they actually they gave the game out to Argentina. Both sides actually prepared for penalties. When I look at the penalty shootout yesterday, both sides actually prepared for penalties, because you could see all French players, the first 3 French players kicked on their left, all of them. That's Mbappe, Chouamani, and Kingsley Coman. All of them kicked on their left, which means that they were prepared to kick just at that particular angle. I give a lot of credit to the French side. I give a lot of credit to the Argentine side, because they had a goalkeeper who was quite excellent in the game. I mean, that last save that he made from Colomwani, I think it was already past 120 minutes. I think he, at that particular point, that is where he won the World Cup for Argentina. One other thing that I would like just to bring in is that I think that leaving Hugo Lloris to be the goalkeeper during the penalties, I think at that point, Mandanda would have been preferable. It's, for me, for Mandanda would have been preferable because Mandanda looks better than Lloris when it comes to penalties.
I was going to say, there's a record that says Lloris is good during the 90 minutes where he saves penalties, but actually during a shootout, he's never actually won a shootout. So it goes to back your kind of theory on that. And I wonder if Mike Maignan was there, because we know about how great a season he's had with Milan, for example, what impact he could have had as well. But like you say, Mandanda, he's had history as well with the likes of Marseille as well. He could have had an impact here. And I wonder if Deschamps didn't really think that one through. It's so many ifs and buts, right, Rory?
There's so many like sliding doors moments. You think, oh, he could have done that, he could have done that. But I think, Lloris, well, I put a curse on Lloris because I said he was finished and then he's had a really good tournament. So, never trust what I'm going to say. But Evra, we do have a comment from AFC Finners. Evra, I want you to know when you guys beat Brazil, I kept doing the Roger Miller dance around the pub. And we were talking about how great Abubakar's goal was. It's my favorite goal of the tournament. Let's talk about that game for you. How great a moment was that for Cameroon and Cameroonian football? It was incredible to see.
That game was especially important, or was special for Cameroon because of the person who gave the assist to Abubakar, because he actually plays in Cameroon. He plays in the Elite One, and he was the top assist. He was the assist leader for last season. He gave 16 assists last season.
Wow!
In this calendar year, that was his 18th assist already in just once in a calendar year. That's Jerome Ngom. He plays for Colombe du Jar, and they are actually top of the table in the league. The league is divided into two groups. So in Group A, his team is actually top of the league, and the league resumes here in Cameroon on Wednesday. They'll be playing at 6:30 p.m. So that particular game was special, and there was a lot of talk going on before the World Cup how Cameroon was going to beat Brazil. But again, some other fans were a little bit skeptical when you look at the Brazilian squad on its own, when you compare value to value the various players, you could see that the Brazilian squad on paper was stronger than that of Cameroon. But at the end of the day, there was that belief in the team, because when you even watch the team talk of Rigobert Song just before they could go in and play the game, and he made a statement. He said, at this point, we're going in for our qualification. It's true that Cameroon's qualification was not dependent on that particular game, because for me, Cameroon already made a blunder not winning against Switzerland and not getting full maximum points against Serbia. But the game against Brazil was a very, very, very special one. I'll tell you a small story about that game. I was traveling. I was about leaving one town to another. I was leaving the capital, Yaoundé, traveling to the Anglophone region, that's Bamenda. So I was at the car park, and we were actually waiting for the bus to leave. And at that particular point, everything came to a still. Nothing was moving. The roads were actually empty. Everyone was concentrating in front of the TV because this is a football mad nation. Everybody here loves football. So I actually met a former classmate, and I was trying to greet her, and she told me that no, I cannot greet you now because I'm concentrating on the game. So it was quite funny. But now, while we're watching the game, and immediately Cameroon scores, we are trying to check on the Switzerland game, and it shows that Serbia leads. It was a draw, 2-2. And we come back in Cameroon. We're really happy that at least we could sail through, but we were still biting our fingers. It was because this particular World Cup. You can remember during the first show that I came on, I said this particular World Cup coming at the middle of the season, we'll have a lot of surprises.
Yes.
And this game against Brazil, it was a great surprise. And the way in which the goal comes, from midfield right up to the cross, and I mean, it was special. It was special. Now, there's a little blunter part of it because Abubakar gets the red card. I don't know how he could not remember that he already had a yellow card. I can't really tell. But that was a special moment, not only for Cameroon, but for the entire Africa, because that was the first time an African nation was actually defeating Brazil at the World Cup. And that particular game showed a weakness at the level of the Brazilian team, because other teams now could actually be the Brazil that played against Serbia and the Brazil that played against Switzerland. Those two teams were outstanding. But now the Brazil that played against Cameroon was completely different. Brazil dominated South Korea in the first half, but when it comes to the second half, they were struggling. And the struggle they had during the game against the second half against South Korea went into their game against Croatia, and I think Croatia worked on that, and Brazil fell at that particular level. But for us in Cameroon, it was a special moment. It's a moment that we'll always cherish.
Beautiful, man. I love it. Honestly, it was such a ludicrous finish from Abubakar. Beautiful goal, great moment. We need to ask you in general. We kind of got a few questions. What do you think was the best goal of the tournament? Not just Cameroon, but the best goal of the tournament.
The best goal of the tournament. There's a chip by Abubakar Vincent against Serbia. The second goal for 3-2 before the equalizer, because he gave the assist later for the equalizer. Then I think Marcus Rashford and there's a guy from Mexico. The two free kicks.
Chavez.
Chavez. Yes, Chavez. Those two, their free kicks were marvelous. Then there's the guy. There's a person, I can't remember his name, but the lone person who scored in the 4-1 defeat. The person who scored for South Korea against Brazil, it was a stunner of a shot. So those are the 4 goals that I'll go for. But my top goal is Vincent Abubakar, because his intelligence, how he could finish with the defender, and the chip over the goalkeeper. But most important, when you look at even the pass from Castelletto from back going forward, and the run from Abubakar from the center half, beating the offside track and every other thing. Everything was beautiful about that goal.
Beautiful. And what do you think was the best game of the tournament?
The best game of the tournament. I'm trying to put out the final and the match.
There's going to be the answer every time, I think now.
And I'm also trying to put out the match between Brazil and Argentina, between Brazil and Cameroon Brazil game. But we had stunner of games. You look like the game Cameroon Serbia. It was almost like the final, because it's the same result, 3-3, and it was almost like you give once you make an argument, I have an answer. You make an argument, I have an answer. It was it could make you go right through your emotions. But the peak of the tournament will be Netherlands against Argentina. That was a
great game. That was a great game.
That was a top game, especially going at the level of the mind games. Both teams could go, and when you look at the equalizer for 2-2, the second goal for Netherlands, it was almost, when you look at it, it almost looks as if it's some guys playing on a PlayStation. It's not as if it's real, because
it was super cold. It was a cold goal.
How do you give that pass, and they finish everything, and it getting right into the penalties. It was completely tense, and so. Another game that was quite interesting in this World Cup was the USA England game. The USA.
Oh wow! Really?
Okay.
Really?
Yeah, it wasn't boring, but when you look at it tactically on the pitch, it was going into the game. You could think that England would smash the USA out completely, but once you could get into the game itself, it was quite interesting. So
there was lots of great games. Man.
with the level of the tournament, it's a little bit difficult to actually pick out because the games were really top level.
That's it. We've been spoiled this past month. We've definitely been spoiled.
We have.
Well, Evra, I want to thank you for coming on, but I think there is someone at the door again, and he needs letting in. Hello, Ibrahim. How are you, man? You good?
Yeah, not bad. Shall I wipe my feet before I come in?
Yeah, please. Make yourself at home. Make yourself at home, right? Repping the Argentina shirt. Love it.
Yeah, shamelessly, of course. Yeah.
Of course, jump on the
shameless.
bandwagon. Jump on the bandwagon. Why not? Yeah. Were there much celebrations in London last night? I can imagine there was some Argentinians going off.
Yeah, it was pretty mad. Yeah, it's well, like I think most people where I was watching it, a lot of people were fairly neutral, but had that sort of messy slant about it. I think nearly every goal was being cheered, all the penalties were being cheered. I think there was no one like really sort of nailed on one side or the other, and it was just a great game to watch. To be honest, it was, and I can't really fault it. And yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah.
It was incredible. It felt like, I think we were talking about what was the last great final. I think I always think of that Italy-Brazil one, whatever year that was in the 80s, right? Is often the one that's quoted. But that final was definitely up there. But we need to talk about Senegal. I think Senegal had a good tournament in general, right? I think you predicted round of 16, right?
Yeah, I think they were. I think having to sort of respond to the Mane setback was obviously a big deal. It was just, coming so close to the tournament as well. Had it been maybe a month or two before, you'd have think actually time to readjust and rethink things. But Cisse did a decent job in getting that team still playing. I mean, the first game against the Dutch, it was cagey, and then the Dutch, the class sort of showed towards the end of the game, and there wasn't really much fault really in that. It was kind of like, okay, like I say, because of the Mane thing, it's kind of like, okay, maybe they're still adjusting to a new way of playing. Got decent enough against Qatar, but maybe people might have expected it's a bit more comprehensive, but they did enough and were through, pretty much set themselves up for the Ecuador game, and then started that game in electric pace against Ecuador, and got the right result in the end. And obviously there was the lovely tribute to Papa Bouba Diop in that game as well. Obviously the anniversary obviously of his death, and obviously 20 years on since the 2002 World Cup. And yeah, it was it seemed fitting to win that game and sort of in his honor, and then move on to the England game, which, the scoreline, I think, people may disagree. I think the scoreline flattered England, to be honest. I think first half an hour, there's nothing between the two teams. Pickford makes a fantastic save. If he doesn't make that save, we're having a very different conversation about both teams' fortunes in the tournament. And yeah, it was just that, after conceding the first goal, I think had they gone in 1-0 at half time, it might have been a different story. But just piling everyone forward, trying to get an equaliser before half time was a problem. And then obviously Jude Bellingham did his thing, and then Harry Kane, one-on-one with a keeper, he's always going to score. So yeah, and I think that was it. That sucker punch just before half time, it was just like, well, to expect them to come back from 2-0 was, it could have been a bit beyond them. I mean, like we've seen teams come back from 2-0 down in this tournament many times. So,
we definitely have. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I just think it was just a bridge too far at that point. And then obviously when Saka scored, it was, it's game over. But then, even then, they didn't really sort of collapse like you'd imagine a lot of teams would, especially the way England were playing. And once England had got the wind up them, you'd have thought actually England are going to go for this like they did against Iran. But they didn't. Senegal didn't back down. And towards the end of the game, maybe sort of last 5 or 10 minutes, Senegal piled forward trying to get a consolation goal. Didn't really happen. But, I don't think there was any shame in that performance overall against England. And yeah, again, it's easy to say again, but if Mane was there, then who knows what might have happened. That just having that cutting edge up front. So
no, I think that's it, especially in the early part of the game. As you said, Senegal had a few chances, and I think we said at the time, Adam, that if Mane's on the pitch, Senegal will go 1-0 up there, and I think there genuinely was some really good chances. But Evra, what did you think of Senegal this tournament? Did they impress you?
Yeah, I was quite impressed with the team because losing Mane was a big blow. Then their first match against the Netherlands, they lost one of their influential players too. That's Sheku Kouyaté. I watched them in January, February out here in Cameroon during the AFCON. It's a golden generation. It's a golden generation, and we would have loved to see this team go a little bit more than the round of 16 at the World Cup, because they are the best team in Africa at the moment. They are the most. When you look at the FIFA ranking, they are the most ranked team on the continent. But the fact that Cisse could make this group believe that in the absence of money, some other players could actually step up. When you look at, for example, the Brentford man, I just forgot his name. Just keep my mind.
Wembo.
Yeah.
I just forgot his name. Oh, but
Wembo.
He came in with
Mwembo. Yeah, Mwembo.
He came in with his own impact.
Mm-hmm.
Then, when you look at somebody like Jacobs, he came in with his own impact, and especially Ismaila Sarr, picking up responsibilities, taking penalties, taking free kicks, corners. The group needed leaders, and that could actually show that in the absence of money, that group can actually survive. That group can actually play well. So, and one other important decision that he took, which was unfortunate for Cameroon, was that he could stick with his goalkeeper, Edouard Mendy, even though some critics were already coming on that Edouard Mendy was a little bit short at the beginning of the World Cup, and he gave a lot of confidence. That was a contrary to Cameroon, where we actually lost our number one goalkeeper to Andre Onana to leave with the whole saga during the World Cup. But we are quite happy that Epasi came in and could do well. But coming back to Senegal, already going past the first round was good for them, and I wish that they could go past the round of 16. England could actually take advantage, because Senegal did not really take advantage of their chances. They did not concretize the chances in that particular game. But England, once they had their chances, they made it back. They made it go through. So I think Senegal can work more. And when I'm looking at the teams that played at the World Cup this year, and I'm looking at how much some of them could progress, even Cameroon, for the past 20 years, this is the first time since 2002 World Cup. This is the first time Cameroon could actually come back from the World Cup with a win and even points. So I'm looking at them. So at the level of the African continent now, it will be actually very difficult. And looking at also the teams that did not go to the World Cup, imagine Egypt, Algeria, and Ivory Coast. So it shows how competitive the African continent can actually bring, the amount of competition that the African continent can bring at the world stage.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And Ibrahim, we've got some really interesting questions coming in for you. The first one from AFC Finners. We were talking about Cisse's management. Do you think Cisse will soon go for a job in Europe, or is he in the national job for a while? What do we think?
I mean, he's been there for quite some time anyway. So I think, and having won the AFCON and taken them to another World Cup, 2 World Cups now, and like I said, it was a decent, respectable performance this time around. So another World Cup in 4 years' time, will he still be there? Who knows? But if a job in Europe was to come along, there really wouldn't be anything stopping him. I think he may consider it. I mean, I'm not putting words in his mouth or anything, but I think, having been in the Senegal job for as long as he has done, and, if we're saying another 4 years to another World Cup, I mean, obviously there'll be AFCONs in between then, but he has won the AFCON with Senegal already. So I don't know. I think, if the right job comes along, I think he'll be tempted.
Nice. And the next one is coming in from Jeremy, who's just come off the feed. Jeremy, why was Papa Gueye not starting against England? I thought his physicality could have been useful. What do we think?
Yeah, it would have been an interesting. Well, I think the team he went with, I don't think there was much problem with the team he went with. But, again, it's one of those things, in hindsight, we look and think, actually, if Guy was able to play, then maybe that might have ruffled a few England feathers. But yeah, I mean, I didn't see anything wrong with the Team Cisse pick for that game, to be honest. I think he got it right, I think, but it just didn't quite work out.
Nice. And last one, again from Jeremy. Mane is only 30, and there's a good generation following. Will Senegal get even stronger between now and 2026?
Yeah, you hope so. I mean, again, it's that thing of we'll go back to the first question about having Cisse there and him being able to nurture this team and help them get through to the next stage. I mean, if there is managerial upheaval, who knows what will happen? I mean, if that will destabilize them, or if, as in the case of someone like Morocco, as we've seen, maybe it would actually galvanize them and help them to sort of kick on. Maybe just that fresh approach might help them. So, yeah, I mean, on paper, Senegal, and as everyone was saying, the other Africa teams could be looking to improve over the next few years. Yeah, I think Senegal are in a very good place to be one of Africa's strongest representatives come the World Cup in America.
Very nice. And Adam, I'm going to let you take the lead with our set questions for Ibrahim. Let's do it.
Yeah, sure. So Ibrahim, just in general, what was the best goal in the tournament, whether that be for Senegal or just in general that you saw?
My favorite goal of the tournament was Neymar's against Croatia. Ultimately, it didn't mean anything, but for me, I think that was an absolutely sensational goal, and it was kind of one of those ones. It was there's a real sort of FU goal to to everyone who had been all this everything that had been coming down on him. It's like he got booted out of the first game. He misses 2 more. He comes back and they toy with South Korea, and then he dances and he's getting the criticism, not just him obviously, but the criticism for the dancing and things like that. And then in that moment against Croatia, he was just like, right, I'm just going to show you guys exactly what I'm all about. And then he just produced that, and it was absolutely magnificent. It was just one of those ones that actually got me like high pitched yelp when you see it in real time. And then obviously it didn't mean anything in the end because they went out, but yeah, just true. In that one moment, it was like, oh, if that is the goal to win that game, it's like sensational, and
it got me thinking that I thought that was like Neymar becoming the name. I thought that was going to drive Brazil forward, but yeah, you've reminded me about that move. That was incredible. What about best match of the tournament? Because everyone seems to be saying yesterday's match, but I'm sure you might be able to give us something different, right?
I mean, yesterday is the obvious choice, but I'm going to go with the Serbia-Cameroon game because the unexpected nature of just sitting down a set, UK time, 10 a.m. on a Monday morning, I think it was, and I was working at the time, and I've just got it on, and I was just like couldn't take my eyes off it. It was absolutely just end to end, brilliant goals, all the drama involved and everything, and just the fight back as well from Cameroon, it was one of those games I didn't think either team played particularly badly either. I thought both teams actually played really, really well in it. And it was just one of those, like Cameroon had like a bit of a dip just before half time when they allowed Serbia back into the game. But aside from that, I thought it was just such an entertaining game. It's one of those World Cup games that just takes you by surprise because nobody would have tuned into that expecting that to be such an entertaining game. And it was, like I say, game of the tournament bar yesterday, I'd say.
Yeah, true. I'm going to go rogue here, Rory. For Ibrahim, what was the team that you were most impressed by?
Morocco. I think, I'm sorry. I mean, again, that's going to be another obvious one that a lot of people are going to say, but yeah, Morocco. Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, again, they've come into the tournament with some changes behind the scenes beforehand. Obviously, new managers come in, and I mean, I looked at their group and I thought they could get out of that group, but I didn't see them getting as far as they did. And just the way that they were, the way that they performed, the way they were able to just step up against Spain and just be like, look, you've got nothing against us, really. You cannot do anything. We're just going to stand here and see, throw everything you can at us, and we're just going to repel it all away. And it's pretty much the same with the Portugal game to a slightly lesser extent. But I thought that Morocco definitely outperformed. They're definitely the team of the tournament that didn't win it, I'd say, just because of the way that as far as they got.
Yeah, I
Rory, it
think
doesn't
it's-
seem like Poland's going to get any votes at this moment.
You'll be waiting a while, Adam. You'll be waiting a
quite
while.
bit.
Well, I do think it is like a monumental thing for Morocco, right? We've not really talked about them yet, but just what they've managed to achieve. And Raragui is incredible management and getting players that we've talked about. Like we've watched a lot of Amrabat in Serie A, and he's been good. He's been okay. And then he turns into Makalele and all sorts in the space of 4 weeks. And then like Unahi, I'd never heard of him before, and now I'm going to go buy him on Football Manager. Like the second I get off this link, like it just he's brought so much out of all these players. And like Ever, I'm going to go to you quickly. Are you surprised by how much he's got out of Morocco? Did you because they disappointed at AFCON? I think people expected more at AFCON from them, right?
Once they changed their manager, I was a little bit skeptical, but I was confident because Regragui won the African Champions League this year with that Casablanca, but that was on the African continent. Nobody really knew what play style Morocco was going into the World Cup with, because it was a new manager, but when he comes in, during his the interview after the game against Portugal, I think he says that it's been a hectic 3 months, and he did a lot of video analysis, had one-on-one sessions with the players, and they did not really agree, but at the end of the day, the players actually understood what he needed from them. And I think that is where you could see that manager-player relationship and how much he is a leader before being a manager, because you could see the players actually playing out their heart. A player like Hakim Ziyech, who had to come out of retirement because under Vahid, the former coach, he actually left the team completely. You could see other players like Hakimi actually giving in, playing the competition, being injured, Bessie giving in. Even a player like Roman Saiz, every player could actually play a role. I actually realized that Bono did not play. I think it was a second game that he left. He felt a little bit dizzy after the national anthem. And I did not realize that Morocco had actually changed their goalkeeper because for the performance of his number 2. So the whole team could gel and actually play. Their play style wasn't actually pretty. It wasn't the pretty style, but they could defend very well. When you look at the game, especially the game against Spain and the game against Portugal, they could defend very well as a block, and for sure their standout player was Amrabat, because
Unbelievable.
He's that player everybody's talking about. Him and I think the goalkeeper for Croatia, that's Dominik Lupakovic. Those are the two players who actually one other player who could join that list. I mean, if at the beginning of the tournament, these are the players we hardly knew about, but now you can actually talk about them. There's Amrabat, there's Lubakovic, there's Martinez, the goalkeeper of Argentina. So Morocco, in the African continent, we're actually happy that at last we can be proud so that an African nation got to the last 4 of the World Cup, and they did not just get to the last 4. They actually gave a game. They had a game plan against France.
Yeah.
But I think on the day, France was more ambitious.
Yes.
Than Morocco. But finally, it's been a long time coming. Finally, in 1990, Cameroon failed against England. In 2002, Senegal failed against Turkey. In 2010, it was heartbreaking for Ghana playing against Uruguay, and the whole Suarez issue. So this time around, Morocco could actually, and against Portugal, it wasn't any team, it was against Portugal, So we are quite happy that Africa can now have a say, Africa as a whole, African countries can have a say when it comes to the World Cup. And we believe that in 2026 things will be different, but we are quite happy. We are proud of this whole Morocco team.
Well, I think it's something that's come out of this World Cup. It was the most diverse set of teams in the last 16, right? So it wasn't dominated by Europe. It was kind of, there was Africa. There was a team from every continent, right? Or every kind of union member. And that's incredible to see. Like, Ibrahim, I'm going to go with you. Do you think this is something we're going to see like on a more consistent basis? Like, it seems like Asian football stepped up. Japan were incredible. Australia, okay, it was a bit of like punching above their weight, but still amazing. Like, do you think this is something we'll see prolonged?
I mean, we hope so, and you think that these teams they're closing the gap on the UEFA and South America as well in terms of, these Europe and South America still are going to be the strongest, but these other confederations are now getting closer, definitely, and going toe to toe to them in these one-off games. They're not a foregone conclusion as they may have been in the past. So I think, with a more expanded World Cup as well, I think there's definitely opportunities for countries from outside the usual places to actually make a bit more of an impact. I mean, I know people have different thoughts on the 2018 World Cup next time around, and we don't even know what the format is destined to be. But I think ultimately just by sheer weight of numbers, I think that it is good for the rest of the world to be able to try and make a bit more of an impact. And, like Everett said, we've seen the first African team in the semi-finals this time. There's optimism it can happen again in 4 years, 8 years, and forevermore, basically.
Yeah, I love it. Like, Adam, it's something that we try and look at, like the kind of small. I don't like smaller as the term, but the kind of less special, less talked about nations, less talked about football. I love it when these teams turn up and just shock everyone. We've enjoyed it, right?
Yeah, it was been beautiful. I mean, one of the sides that I was gutted that we didn't see was Ecuador. Ecuador was one of those sides that I think they just really won over a lot of people. And I thought, in the early stages, they seemed to have a team that could frighten this tournament. But unfortunately, it was just that reliance on Enner Valencia that kind of maybe killed it off, because obviously he got that knee injury. I think it was the second game in. Then they kind of made him play that third game, and he just wasn't the same player, unfortunately. But yeah, it's been beautiful to see. And on to Ibrahim's point about extending the World Cup, I don't know if this World Cup maybe has made FIFA rethink those plans because of the quality of games that we've had. Totally with you in terms of I'd love to have more teams involved. But yeah, I wonder if this kind of the quality that we've been bestowed, and I think we've been really fortunate. I think that's really helped just get in the just general public infused about the World Cup, because I think when I think about previous World Cups, I think the group stages have always been one of those that is like, yeah, predictable, teams will go through, you might get the odd shock, but then it's the latter stages people wait out for. So yeah, interested to see how it progresses, but I'm sure FIFA have a head on the money side of things. I'm sure, Rory.
Yeah, they do always seem to be looking that way. But guys, we have got someone else at the door. The waiting room is getting pretty busy. I just saw a few people arrive and my anxiety levels have gone through the roof. But there is someone at the door and I'm going to let them in if I can get rid of the banner. There we go. And let's see who it is. Here he is. It's getting crowded in here. Peter, how are we doing, man? You good?
I am doing well. Yeah. How's everyone here? How are you guys?
I think everyone's good.
Flowing. We're having good football talk.
I love it. I love it.
My anxiety levels are through the roof, but we are here to talk about Brazil. And Peter, where do we start? I think we expected so much and it kind of went down in a blaze of glory, would you say? How do you feel about it looking back at it now?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty devastating, pretty crushing. After that final, it's hard to say it was a roller coaster of emotion, because what could compare to that? But I mean, everything from the game previous to the elimination against South Korea, where we seemed on top of the world and there was just no stopping us. We were going to score a million goals. Tiny Croatia could never, we were already thinking to the glorious semifinal against Argentina, and again in the game there was so much frustration, there was buildup, but there's belief that we could score that goal. And then of course when Neymar eventually did score that terrific goal, I think that sort of the sense of relief came over everyone, and everyone, okay, the match is over, job done, on to the next round. And then of course the midfield just got a little too exuberant, too offensively, trying to get that second goal and cough up the equalizer, which I think took the wind out of our sails completely. And yeah, they got beat by the more experienced team in the pen shootout.
I kind of feel like at the moment, Brazil, it's such a mentality thing for them at the moment. It feels like with every tournament, the pressure piles higher and higher and higher with Brazil. It's now not since 2002 was the last final they got to, right? And it feels like each time, if it doesn't go exactly right, they buckle under the pressure. Is this what we saw this time? I thought you could see the weight on their shoulders when they were taking the penalties.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was reading an interesting article in the Wall Street Journal about just the psychology and the mental taxation that stepping up to the penalty spot in any match takes on you, and what makes the team successful. And like you said, just the immense amount of pressure these guys have on their backs can definitely skew. And I think you saw that with young Rodrigo, right? Missing the pen, his first World Cup. Undoubtedly an incredible player, right? But just the pressure gets to him, and he's probably slotted that home a million times in training and for Real Madrid, but just the pressure got to him. And even with a player like Marquinhos, tons of experience, tons of quality, but just couldn't get it done.
I think we've got a comment from AFC Finners. In terms of style, it felt like Brazil of old were back. I was genuinely shocked when they crashed out. It did feel like old school Brazil. It feels like the last couple of World Cups, they've not been the most entertaining, or not maybe as entertaining as we expect, but they were playing some beautiful football, and they've got some exciting players again. Is it still there's still optimism for the next World Cup, Copa America, etc., right? Expect this isn't the ceiling of this team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so much hope. There's always hope on the horizon, right? But I mean, especially with the current crop of players, like I said, I think when I was on before, I said this is probably the most exciting and best team in terms of quality since 2006. All these young kids. There's definitely optimism, but there's a lot of, especially given the eventual winners, there's a lot of doom and gloom around the team, and sort of the attitude of just being a little bit more cynical about it. And there's big questions in terms of the next manager. Everyone's got their pet pick, both realistic and unrealistic. And so I think there's of course optimism, but it's kind of hard to tell this soon after such a devastating loss.
I have seen Ancelotti linked to it, right? Ancelotti, that's not me going mad. I've seen stories of Ancelotti being linked to the
Pep as well. Pep as an outsider.
That's what we need. Ibrahim, you don't look impressed. I'm not liking either of them with the Brazil job.
No. I think that I'd love to see both in the Brazil job. I just don't see Pep Guardiola Pep Guardiola is just addicted to football on a day-to-day basis. I don't think he could handle going 2 months without a football match, basically. So I think he'd drive himself absolutely insane if he took an international job. So that's why I don't see Pep Guardiola. Ancelotti, on the other hand, I think what he does with Real Madrid and what has made him so successful whenever he's had that job, however many times he's had it now, is basically just thinking like, you know what, I've got a bunch of fantastic players here. Just get them to do what they do best, kind of thing. He doesn't micromanage them. He doesn't do too much. And I think if he was to take the Brazil job, that could be the thing that actually gets them going, basically. Just having like a manager who allows them the freedom, still has the authority, of course, but just gives them that sort of belief and that freedom to do what they do best, and ultimately potentially lead to the success that Carlo Ancelotti his entire CV is packed with. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's my pick, but just today I've seen comments. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think they have. I think he's happy where he is, and I think he's getting older. And he said something to that effect when he was asked about it. But there was official interest from the CBF, so it was kind of my dream pick. But I'm afraid I think they're going to pick from the kind of carousel of Brazilian managers, and in my opinion, they're all a bit mid, a bit kind of average. And I think they have some antiquated ideas, especially the longer they stay managing Brazilian club teams. I think that they a little out of their depth on the world stage.
So we're going to ask you our set questions, and the first one is: what do you think is the best goal of the tournament? It doesn't have to be Brazil, although I think some of the contenders are from Brazil.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, Richarlison's goal against South Korea comes to mind, as does his overhead kick, or more of a scissor kick, I guess. Man, I'll stick with Richarlison against South Korea, where he headed it a few times, just because there was the team involvement there, and the quick 1-2 with I think it was Neymar or Paquetá, and eventually they found the net. I thought that one was one of the most satisfying goals that I've seen this tournament, and maybe it was just how happy and emotional I was seeing that goal go in, feeling much more confident about the future of the tournament. But yeah, I'll go with that one.
Very nice. And what do you think was, now the final aside, because everybody's saying the final, obviously, what do you think was the second best game of the tournament?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, just in terms of pure shock value, I thought Saudi Arabia Argentina was just out of left field. I couldn't get over that. I really enjoyed also. I mean, France versus England was awesome as well. I probably have to the match that I enjoyed the most in terms just watching it and just being relieved that I wasn't. I was watching as a neutral. I could just enjoy both sides. Was probably France and England.
That was an awful, horrible, torturous experience for me, I'll be honest. And who do you think was the standout player for Brazil? Who do you think the best player was across the tournament?
Again, another great question. I know I predicted Vinicius Jr. would be the best player for Brazil and the best player in the tournament. That didn't really end up happening. He had some flashes of brilliance, but I don't think that he deserves that. I mean, I'm tempted to say Richarlison, but just he went missing in important games and in important phases of certain games. Not least which, the game where they were ultimately eliminated by Croatia. So it's hard for me to say Richarlison as well. He also led Brazil in terms of goals. I'm not sure that anyone from the Brazilian team really did themselves justice. I don't think they played to the level that they were capable of. But I think I'll go with Richarlison just because he was putting the ball in the back of the net. And he had those impressive couple goals.
He did do all right. It could have been Martinelli. I'm telling you, if you'd have thrown on Martinelli at the end, Brazil is still in the World Cup, I'm telling you. But I'm going to go to, Adam, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Peter, how did Roy Keane's critique of Brazilian dancing go down?
Yeah, I mean, for people that wanted to get upset about it, I think, you could easily get upset about it and, talk about how ridiculous that is and just how, I mean, it's, but at the end of the day, I mean, it just doesn't mean that much. I think people got mad about the comments, and then a lot of people in Brazil apparently were just Googling to see who Roy Keane was.
I just love that thought of his little vein is pumping and he's just getting really more agitated by the more, we saw the memes of obviously the Brazilian players with Tete as well, kind of celebrating the goals as well. So for me, it was just laughable. I love seeing Roy Keane getting wound up. But,
exactly. Get him. And he's let them have that opinion. That's fine. But for me, that's part of the enjoyment of the World Cup. I wasn't around for it, but one of the most iconic things that things that like scream World Cup to me is Roger Milla dancing at the corner flag, right? I mean, like these moments that necessarily aren't footballing related or on the pitch, ball moving around, can become iconic World Cup moments. And it's part of the enjoyment and seeing different nations, how other nations celebrate. It's part of like the cultural exchange. So he's welcome to have that opinion, but it's whatever to me.
I think the collection of ITV pundits this tournament was particularly dour. I think I don't know if people watched much of it, but Lee Dixon is like the new Mark Lawrenson, just professionally moaning about watching football constantly. I've had a lot of it very difficult to watch. But was that all the set questions, Adam? I'm losing track.
It was, I think I went rogue and said, Peter, what was your kind of different team that you fancied? Like, as in terms of teams that you were most surprised by, even
teams I was most surprised by. I mean, that would definitely go to Morocco.
Number two. There we go.
That's probably the most vanilla answer. I'm probably sure everyone had said that. To be, I guess, so obvious. That's the obvious answer. Other teams. I mean, I was impressed with Croatia. I guess it's becoming a bit more of the norm that they're going to be in the talk and in the mix of any big competition now that they're becoming much more prominent footballing nation. I like what Japan did. I was a big fan of Japan. I thought they might squeak through as well.
They were great to watch. They were great fun.
And I was proud. I saw the ticker just flash on before, and I know you guys were talking Senegal, and they were my pick for the dark horse. And I think they did well. I think they would have done better with Mane, but I thought they were pretty good too. But I was anticipating that. So if I had to pick one, I'll go with Japan because I just enjoyed watching them play, and I have high hopes for them.
Nice. Good. We do have, sorry, Ever, we were going to come back to you, but there's someone else at the door and I need to let them in because he's been waiting a while now. Let's see who it is. All right, mate.
Hello.
Can you hear us?
Doorbell there. Yeah. Yeah,
thank you very much. How are we doing, man? You good? I'm going to introduce. This is Jack from For the Love of List podcast, and we're here to talk about England. Man, it was so close. It almost came home. What happened?
Sorry, but the signal went a little bit there. Oh no, that's not good for the pod. Let me try and go on another.
It's all right. Don't worry. It almost came home. What happened?
Well. I think it was par for the course. Like quarterfinals, I think that's pretty much what a lot of people were expecting. France, the holders, good side, aren't they? I mean, they proved that in the tournament. But yeah, I mean, in that actual game that England lost to France, like the referee had a bit of a shocker, didn't he? Really, it could have gone a different way on a different night, and I think if that had happened, who knows what could have happened in the later rounds.
It does feel like it was close. It felt like almost like maybe like Peter was saying with Brazil looking at the semi-final. I think even though it was France, I was looking at that semi-final against Morocco and being like, if we just get past this match, if we just get there, then maybe we can do it. But I feel like ultimately, like experience told on the day. Like, I don't know what you think, Adam, and we'll get everyone else's thoughts, but it felt like in that France game, it was just clinicalness, right? It was just the experience that was the difference.
Yeah, it was just moments, really. And I think that was the difference between maybe England learning from this experience and helping them progress in future tournaments. But yeah, it did very much go down by the clinicalness of the French team at that very moment, because as we kind of previewed and reviewed, it was really much about certain individuals and how they kind of dragged out the play as well. Because, I mean, for the majority of it, you could say England did dominate the play. But I just feel like there was just that little bit of edge that France had. And I think personally, I still stick by it. And I know Southgate's kind of said that he's going to stay with this England side, but I do feel that maybe another coach would have got a bit more out of this England team. But credit where it's due, you know, Southgate, when you think back at what he's achieved, he's done amazingly well for what, you know, you compare it to other England managers and what they've managed to get out of future squads. But yeah, I do feel like there's a bit of a missed opportunity potentially where they could have gone further, but I don't know what the rest of the guys think.
Yeah, anybody thoughts on England? Let's go with Evra first. What did you think of England? Were you impressed by them? Do you think they could have done more?
Yeah, England. We expected better from this English team because, as usual, it's coming home.
That's it.
But it's never making it home. When you look at the whole squad, the players were ready to deliver, and even with some of the troubles, you could see some of the players leaving the squad at the heart of the World Cup. See Ben White, we had the Sterling issue and all the like. But England as a whole, I think you see the penalty miss against France, Hurricanes penalty miss. I think it was huge. It was huge because once he misses that, I think even his teammates they weren't really in the game again, because with that particular game, France could actually dominate the midfield because England's game before that, Jude Bellingham and Henderson were completely dominating their opponents in midfield. You know, Bellingham was having the tournament of his life, but once he got to the game against France, right up to the moment when France caused the first penalty on Saka, I think that Bellingham wasn't really in the game. And that is why you could see a player like Harry Maguire, he stepped out in that game because he made a lot of runs going forward, pushing ahead with the ball. So England found it difficult. And again, the question on everyone's lips was, how was Kyle Walker going to survive with Kylian Mbappe in that game, which was not an easy one. I think that the English FA is sticking with Gareth Southgate because they haven't really they don't really see another English manager at the moment who can really replace Southgate, because if there was another English manager who can really come in with something, I think Southgate would have left after this World Cup.
No, I think you're absolutely spot on. And Jack, how do you feel about the news that Southgate is going to stay on? I think I might be the only one on our pod that's actually quite happy with the news. I think it's a good move.
Yeah,
what do you think, Jack?
I think there's definitely better English managers out there, but I don't think they'd want the England job, because I think I said it before. Like, these days, club football, certainly in management, is where the top jobs are. So you've got the likes of Eddie Howe, Graham Potter, stuff like that. They're not leaving their jobs to manage England. So yeah, I don't mind it, to be honest. With Southgate staying on, I think after 2024, you might be looking at, you know, quite a few of his kind of stalwarts like Pickford, Maguire, Kane, and stuff, all taking a bit more of a back step, and probably at that time that will be the right time to go. But yeah, it's whatever. I mean, he's all right. He's all right. I don't think there's anyone better. It's kind of
no. Well, that's it.
Yeah.
The question I kept asking myself, and everyone was like, "Get Southgate out, get Southgate out." I was like, "Yeah, but who are you bringing in? That's the big question. Who are you bringing in?" But Evra did also touch on one of the players of the tournament, and we called it in our predictor, Jack, I think. But Ibrahim, I'm going to get your thoughts on Jude Bellingham. How did we get someone who? How is he English? It's like a blessing. He's been unbelievable, right?
Well, it's just that you just go back to when he was sold by Birmingham, and I've got a friend of mine who's a very massive Villa fan, season ticket holder, and he was literally laughing his head off at the fact that Birmingham City retired a number of a teenager when they'd sold him. They'd barely played any games of football for them. And well, who's laughing now is what you say, I think. Yeah, I mean, maybe, totally justified. I mean, I've watched him a bit playing for Dortmund. He looks absolutely fantastic there. I mean, a lot of people do have the older Bundesliga tax thing that they throw about there, but he's phenomenal for Dortmund, and they absolutely love him. And just having someone with that sort of technical ability and that drive and that sort of determination playing in the England midfield is something that we have. I mean, people compare it to like Gaza back in the early 90s, and what Rory, you and I might have thought Wilshere would have been like at some point. It just didn't happen for him. But having someone like Bellingham in there who is just such a different, so different to what we're used to seeing in the English midfield it was great. I mean, it was fantastic against Iran, and obviously it made a difference against Senegal. But in that France game, I think it was just a sort of a bit of just a bit of naivety, lack of experience that sort of stopped him where someone like Griezmann had dropped into midfield and did everything for France there. It was kind of like, okay, you're seeing someone who is just has that little bit more at the moment. And I think, Bellingham's future's, he's got such a bright future ahead of him. He will not walk away from this tournament with his head down, and bigger and better things to come for him, I think.
Nice. And Adam, I'm going to let you take the lead on the questions again, because I've got some DMs to answer. So I'm going to let you go with
fine.
Jack.
So Jack, what was your favourite goal from this tournament?
England goal.
It can be England if you would like, but you can also choose a different goal as well.
I'm going to go with a different goal. My favourite goal of the tournament was Mbappe's second in the final, because I mean, I'm not the most patriotic. I probably felt more emotion in that goal than any other in the World Cup, to be honest. And it was a great goal.
You probably were jumping with them, weren't you? Yeah.
Yeah, and the stage that he did it on as well, unbelievable. Obviously, it did sort of come to nothing in the end, but incredible, really.
No, definitely was one of the contenders, that's for sure. What about your team of the tournament?
I don't want to have to say it because it's probably been said loads already, but Morocco, they've been so solid. Hakimi, he probably had quite a few critics about his actual defensive ability, but I think he proved his doubters wrong over the tournament, and they were just awesome, and everyone was egging him on to beat France and win the thing, and they've made history for Africa as well, which is a great story.
Rory, there's definitely no votes for Poland at this stage, so
No,
let's carry on. Let's carry on.
We can give up on that dream, I think. But guys, you'll never guess what. There's someone else at the door, and I think I need to let him in. And here he is, Marco. How are we doing?
Sorry,
man
I'm
in the
late.
ground. You were in Doha, right? You were in the stadiums watching the games. How was it, man?
Yeah, actually, I was just on Serbia games against Brazil and against Cameroon and against Switzerland. But yes, that's like 14 or 15 days. It was really great. Once in a lifetime opportunity, a really fantastic experience. And, everything's so great that even 10 or 15 days it's passed since I've come back to the Serbia. It's, it's still like everything's still in my mind, and it's really, really great.
Nice. We've heard a lot of things about how it's been a completely different atmosphere at this tournament, right? No alcohol, a bit more calm, no English arrests for the first time ever. How was the atmosphere in Doha? What was it like to be there?
Well, no, that's not so true. There was alcohol, but it was like Doha. It's mixed. There's a place where live people from Asia, like Bangladesh, I don't know, India or like that country, and they work a lot, and they have not many rights, not very good position. So usually on that places there's no alcohol, but in the hotels and everything where is a lot of tourists, there you can buy alcohol anytime, any day. There's no alcohol in markets, but in hotels and expensive restaurants, yes, there is alcohol and there's everything. So, and the police, they were really like probably softened a little. So it was like any other European city.
Wow. Well, I think it's good to have someone there because you never know. Like both sides of this argument have such a huge PR machine that you don't know what's actually going on there. But we're going to talk about Serbia. And Marco, before the tournament, we were quite excited about Serbia. Do you think it feels? How do you feel it went?
Yeah, actually, that was the worst part of my trip to the Doha. It's really disappointing. Everything is disappointing. I was so excited about the coach. I was so excited about the team. I'm disappointed with everything. It's bad. Its result is awful. The play was awful. Everything was underachievement.
What do you think it is that caused this? Now, there was rumors about Vlahovic and the goalkeeper coach's wife and all sorts going on. What do you think went wrong in the Serbia camp?
Yeah, that's like something that happens to us. It happened in 2010 in South Africa. It's always like some scandals or something. It's like people love to watch reality shows, and our national team is one reality show probably. And you don't know if it's true, if it's not true. It doesn't matter because the result is bad. I think even the coaching was bad because I think the Serbia is the only country that did not have a video analysis in team. So that's, I think, it can be allowed.
So was there any reason they didn't have video technology? Was there any reason for that?
Actually, no, they did not have someone who will analyze that everything and present to player. It's like the worst match prepared than anyone. They like so bad against Switzerland, and it was so easy to read the Serbian play, Serbian game. So it's not good for us.
It's kind of a shame because I think and Ibrahim, you were nodding your head as well. Like this squad is a really exciting squad, the Serbia team. Vlahovic and Mitrovic up front. They could have done so much more, right?
Totally.
Yeah,
They were. Sorry.
Please keep.
No, sorry, I was going to say that they were my dark horses to be second behind Brazil in that group, and then maybe go on to quarterfinals, maybe even beyond that, and make a big impact on the tournament. Just basically looking at the names in the squad, you just all mentioned them there. So I was very surprised that they. It did boil down to that Switzerland game, really having really not picked up the points in the earlier games, and I thought they should have got the better of Switzerland, considering how Switzerland went on to perform when they in their round of 16 game. It was obviously the Portugal defeat. It was you got to think that Switzerland are not as strong as they showed in that one particular game against Serbia, and I think Serbia that was a missed opportunity. And I feel that for the quality of the team that Serbia have, they should have done better. I felt.
Peter, you came head to head with Serbia, supporting Brazil. What did you make of the Serbia team when you played them?
Well, I mean, they made me nervous. I'll tell you that much. I think it was until, in terms of, I just wasn't sure we were going to get that breakthrough. I think Richarlison ended up scoring sometime maybe mid in the second half. I mean, just was one of those games. It was I just wasn't sure that the goal was going to come. And I was having flashbacks to 2018 where that draw in the group stage that was so frustrating against Switzerland, where Brazil was the better team, but they just couldn't pull ahead. So overall impressed, and I I think I share the sentiment that I thought Serbia would be coming along to the round of 16 along with Brazil.
Nice. Yeah, I think we all expected a bit more. Adam, again, I'm going to let you take the lead with the photo with the questions because I'm trying to get another guest lined up.
No problem. So, Marco, what was your goal of the tournament?
So, well, probably Richarlison against Serbia.
Okay, you can go for either Serbia or a different nation if you want.
No, Richarlison against Serbia. I don't like any Serbian goal.
Okay,
Still
fair enough.
painful.
Who was your surprise team of the tournament?
Morocco, obviously.
There we go, another one for them. It seems to be a common answer, Marco. And just more of a personal one, will we ever see Mitrovic and Vlahovic play in the same team?
No. Vlahovic is probably, the better player. He's younger, and there's a lot waiting for him. And Mitro is probably at his best.
Yeah, good answer. Rory, where are we?
We are all good. We're just waiting for the next person. There's a lot of people messaging me at once. We've got Spain and Morocco lined up, but neither of them are here. So we're going to try to continue. Adam, I'm going to hand over to you. Did we talk about, what haven't we talked about yet? We need to talk about the most disappointing teams in the tournament. I'm going to start with Evra. Let's go for you. Which team do you think were the biggest disappointment of this tournament?
I think Denmark, because, given what Denmark produced during the Euro, we expected Denmark to do better. And at the beginning of the competition, I actually gave Denmark as one of the dark horses. But they absolutely shattered everything that all the good qualities that I had about the squad. So Denmark did not really perform how at the level at which they were expected, or that I expected them to perform.
What about you, Jack?
Yeah, to be fair, I think Denmark is probably a good shout as well. I mean, there's Belgium too, which is probably going to come up a fair bit, but I think they did have their chances to get through and stuff, whereas Denmark pretty much didn't perform in any game, really. They never looked that threatening like they were going to go through, and most people did have France and Denmark going through in that group like that. That was one of the kind of ones out of all the groups where it was quite a clear prediction and that something like that was going to happen. So yeah, I agree with that shout.
Yeah, good shout on Belgium as well, to be fair. I have to say I felt really disappointed by certain players for the Belgium squad, but I think that was also driven by Martinez's selection. Peter, what about yourself?
Well, I think Denmark is definitely up there, and I just to be a little different, I'll go with Uruguay. I thought they might be a team that could make a deep push, and they couldn't get it done in the closing moments of that group. Yeah, disappointing from them, and obviously I like to see South American teams go a little further than the group, but yeah, I think they have a lot of questions to ask themselves.
Yeah, certainly. What about you, Ibrahim?
Again, sorry, Marco. Serbia were my dark horse, so I think Serbia were probably one of my biggest disappointments. But then I think one of the ones of people we haven't really mentioned yet, Germany. Just really messing it up. I mean, ultimately they didn't play too badly in their second and third games. They didn't play badly against Spain. They had a mad 5 minutes against Costa Rica, but ultimately dominated that game and won comfortably in the end. But yeah, just throwing it away against Japan, it proved so costly for them. And it's like they're just everything that we've sort of known from German football. It's just the complete opposite of what we know from them now, just to be able to slip up like this. And they've done it not just in this tournament, but in the last few, including Euros. I mean, is it at the point that Germany are just not that good anymore? You know, are they a team that just gets to group stages and, you know, last 16s and maybe not even beyond the quarterfinals now? I mean, that's the worry. I mean, you still go player for player in their team. They still look really, really strong. But there's got to be a sort of discussion about what is stopping them from fulfilling their potential right now. Because like I said, it's been ongoing now. So
I agree. I mean, I kind of expect to see more of Cuckoo in this tournament. I know Füllkrug kind of made himself more of a name in the second game, but I think it was like the lack of a forward. I think that was the killer really for Germany. Don't know if everyone else agrees. But before I do that, I'll pass on to Marco for disappointments in the tournament, apart from Serbia.
I know what he's going to say. I think I know what he's going to say.
Yeah, apart from Serbia, I probably agree that Germany is like a biggest disappointment of the tournament. So Germany and Denmark, and that's probably it. Germany and Denmark.
Nice, good. Well, guys, our next guest is here, so you know what that means. It's another doorbell. Hola, it is time to talk España with Ander. Ander, how we doing, man?
Hey, how are we doing? Really good.
Good to have you back. Now, Spain, it feels like a long, long time ago. It feels like ages ago that you went up against Morocco. The Morocco fans should be joining us soon, touch wood, so that could be fun. But how do you feel looking back on Spain's tournament now?
Disappointing. I mean, it wasn't great how it ended. I mean, there was always the risk of it not being stellar, of just going out on the round of 16, because the team was just, I mean, the team was good, had a lot of potential. I think really showed it in the Germany game, but also had massive flaws, and they were all just exposed brutally against Morocco. And yeah, it just left a really, really bitter taste in everyone's mouth, because everything seemed to be gaining momentum with Luis Enrique, with him becoming a Twitch streamer, with everything kind of just going right, everything really kind of just starting to click, and then they just lose against Japan, kind of go wrong-footed into the Morocco game, and just can never quite figure things out there, and just really go out in a very like sad, lamentable way in the penalty kicks, just because they didn't score one. They were just they just really folded under the occasion, and that was just disappointing to see overall.
What do you think it is that kind of caused this? Because I think we could see the technical ability of Spain. We could see they love a pass. They can't stop passing it, right? What do you think? Where did it all go wrong?
It went wrong, I think, just by the team's flaws. I don't think the problem is the style per se, or the fact that they just pass and pass and pass. I mean, I think it's good to have the ball, to be as dominating as you can, but they just lack the final edge, a dribbler, someone that could really turn the defense, that could just be a force of presence. Like, they didn't have it. They had neither a dribbler in central areas or wide areas, nor did they have a out-and-out striker, someone that could really kind of mix things up when everything was just kind of stuck. I remember the post-game analysis, we were thinking they would have had like a Fernando Llorente type player like back in the day, just to try to mix things up, because everything was just falling flat over and over and over against a really good Morocco defense. It just, I think the lack of different profiles in the team, and especially in the attack, it just ended up costing them. Because I think the team played, I mean, the team had the ability to play quite well. I think against Germany, they showed that particularly. But yeah, it just didn't quite, they weren't able to materialize it with what they had, and they just kind of just ended up just lamenting everything they didn't have, and weren't able to make up for what they didn't have with their strengths, and everything just kind of became a weakness in and of itself.
And of course, now Luis Enrique is gone, right? That's it.
Yes.
He's kind of left. And where does Spain go from here? They've got kind of an interim manager in at the time at the moment, right? But I don't think he's the first. He's not the choice.
Oh no,
right?
he's staying. He's staying. No, he's staying all the way through the Euros. Yes.
Oh wow. Okay,
Wow.
that's decided.
Yeah.
Right, okay, nice.
Oh, no,
What
it's
do we know
decided.
about this guy?
Very little. I mean, he's coached barely on club side. He coached Deportivo Alaves, who played Liverpool in 2001 in the UEFA final. Yeah, it's a team. I think when he coached them, they were in the second division, third tier, one of the two. Yeah, he has very little experience at club level. He has a pretty good reputation with the international side and the under 16, 17, 18, 19, almost all the underage categories. He has a good reputation there. A lot of people within kind of coaching circles in Spain know of him, speak pretty highly of him and of his qualifications. But yeah, it's a very anticlimactic kind of resolution to all this when you had like a very personality driven Luis Enrique, like against the press and everything, against the media, the press itself, was just it created kind of this cult of personality, which I think in many ways was positive, and I don't think it really detracted from the team in any meaningful way. And yeah, now they just go with a like total unknown, which is something they did post 2002 World Cup exit. They parted ways with Jose Antonio Camacho back in the day, and they basically just put in the under 21 manager up until the following Euro tournament in 2004. So they're kind of going basically down that same route. Someone pretty unknown, doesn't have a big name, is easy to manage, isn't really like an issue in the sense of like dealing with him from the higher ups, with the media. Everything is just much more easy, much more controllable than Luis Enrique was in many ways. And yeah, from that, just try to build on like the young players up and coming that he has experience with. He also coached Spain at the Olympics, which Pedri played in, and a bunch of other players that are in the team now. So they're betting on that. They just kind of let's just go in like a different route. Someone much more low profile, someone much more like easy to get along with, and see where we go. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the decision itself. I think it just kind of stems from like the president of the Spanish Football Federation's kind of obsession with like being in control of every single little thing, being big micromanager. His name is Luis Rubiales. He's a pretty controversial figure, and yeah, I'm not a big fan. I think it could work because again, like international football is really strange, really weird. Again, it's not like club football in the sense like mid-tier managers, let's say like Gareth Southgate, who I'm a big fan of, but I think in the great scheme of football, he's a mid-tier manager. I think the same goes for many of the most successful and international managers at the national team level. And so in that sense, I think it could work out for Spain, even if it's an unknown. But yeah, just not very inspiring. It doesn't really tingle any senses. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I just assumed it was an interim choice, but no, it looks like that's it. He's the man. Yeah. So, Ander, we're going to ask you some questions, if I can remember them. Yes. What is your favorite goal of the tournament? It could be Spain or non-Spain. Your favorite goal of the tournament?
Yeah, I mean, well, Spain did score 8 against Costa Rica. Was it Gavi? Gavi scored a really good one, but my favorite, or the most wild, crazy, awesome to look at, amazing, was obviously about Weghorst, which I'm sure has been mentioned already for Holland in the Netherlands to tie the 100th minute of regular stoppage time. 10th minute. Yeah, I think that has to be the goal. It's the most iconic. It's the most audacious. It's just a crazy goal. I mean, I really like Di Maria's the second goal for Argentina yesterday with the build-up with Messi, Julian Alvarez, Alexis, McAllister, and Di Maria topping it off. I mean, it was probably those, but I think it's just nothing can really top Weghorst. Even though they ended up losing, it's just a crazy thing to try and for that to work in that scenario.
Yeah, I think that goal got the biggest reaction out of me this tournament. I genuinely squealed like a girl. It was ridiculous. Apart from the final, because we're having to caveat that, what do you think was the best game of the tournament?
Yeah, the best game. There's a bunch of good ones. I mean, Argentina against the Netherlands was pretty good game. This is a tricky one. Let's see. That one was pretty good. Who else had like a pretty? I mean, Morocco, Spain, from the Moroccan point of view, I think was very interesting. Them really showing that they were capable. But I'm gonna go from like a deep cut from like the world from the group stage. I think Morocco against Belgium was a very interesting, very kind of like. Oh, Morocco are a threat. Morocco aren't like this like team. Oh, they tied with Croatia in the first game. Oh, they might be good. They really took the game to Belgium and were much better than Belgium. And again, Belgium ended up falling flat, but also because they just weren't able to kill off Croatia when they had an array of chances to do so. I would maybe go with that. Morocco-Belgium. Morocco-Belgium was, I think, a pretty good game in that.
Very nice. And on that note, we're going to have to bring in our last guest, guys, because we need to. They've been the story of the tournament. He's at the door. I'm going to have to bring him in. Here we go. And it is Basri, our good friend Basri. He's been featuring in our pod throughout the tournament with his little voice notes, reacting to this incredible story that is Morocco. Basri, let's go. How does it feel?
Yeah, we are happy. We are proud. Hello, everyone. Night, everyone. Everyone is happy here now. We are waiting for our national team. Tomorrow, they are going to be here in Rabat, in the capital, at 5 p.m. So everyone is waiting for our national team. It's going to be a big show. Everyone is in the streets tomorrow. Even the king himself is going to be there, like to bring on the national team to the castle, to the king castle. So everyone is waiting for tomorrow. Every single person here in Morocco is waiting for our national team. Like everyone was dreaming in this World Cup. We were like watching Bounou, Hakimi, Unahi. Every single player is like an icon here in Morocco now. So now we are like, we waved them goodbye after 1 month before, but we never expected that we're going to be like beaten again tomorrow as the fourth team in the World Cup. That's madness. That's madness. That never happened before in Africa. So yeah, we are happy to welcome back our heroes tomorrow.
Beautiful. And Basri, now in our predictor, you did say that you really expected a lot from this team. You were really optimistic about this team. I thought you were getting a bit carried away with yourself, but this team was unbelievable. Now that we can ask, I'm going to get everyone to kind of pick out their favorite Moroccan player from this tournament, but I have to start with Unahi. I had no idea who he was, and now I'm a little bit obsessed with him. Where has he come from? He's been incredible.
It's my favorite player. Because the first thing is from Casablanca, he's from my city, and he's from one popular neighborhood. It's called 04, Lilla Mariam 04. It's a popular neighborhood here in Casablanca, and he played with my favorite team, Raja Casablanca. He played with under 14 until like under 15. He was very famous in the streets. So he was a player of the streets. He played with many street teams, so he was known. So when Raja Casablanca heard about him, he went to Raja Casablanca Academy for 3 years. After that, the biggest academy here in Morocco, Academy Mohammed VI. So they saw what a great talent he has. So they bring him on to this academy alongside Naif Agred, alongside Youssef Ansari. They are from the same generation of Academy Mohammed VI. So from Raja Casablanca, he went to the academy, and after that he went to France, to Strasbourg, and after that to Angers. He wasn't known in the whole world, but the people who watch a little bit of Ligue 1 knows that this guy has something. So he's very talented. We call him here the bee, like a bee, because he moves like a bee, and he's Iniesta for everyone here. So everyone here loves to watch Spanish football, so he is the Iniesta of Moroccan football. So we are proud of him, and I'm talking about me. I'm really proud of him because he's from my team, and he's also from the neighborhood. So he's from our neighborhood. So yeah,
I love that. Nice. I'm going to go Peter. Let's go with you first. A Moroccan player that you admire more than the beginning of this tournament?
More than you know what? I think I always knew he's a great player. This might be a boring pick, but I think Hakimi I think he set himself apart in this tournament just as a leader. And I think that was a little bit underrated in terms of how I viewed him at PSG. Obviously, they have so many incredible leaders in that squad. I don't think he has to be that guy for PSG. But I was really impressed with him and how he handled himself throughout the tournament. He's only 24, so really impressed.
Right. Crazy. Evra, what about you? A player that really stood out to you from Morocco that you kind of fell in love with?
I think I've already mentioned his name here. That's Amrabat. Amrabat. He's that player that, is the surprise of this tournament. One of those players nobody knew about before this. Nobody, or even if people knew about him, nobody was really talking about him. But you could see it was like almost like another version of Kante, another version of a Moroccan Kante playing. I remember there's this tackle where Kylian Mbappe actually gave about 2 meters difference with him, but he could still catch up with Mbappe, get the ball and move forward. And you could see even getting into extra time, he was playing as if the game was just beginning for him. So I'll go for Amrabat.
I do. We need that tackle was like Beckenbauer-esque. It was incredible, that tackle. It was one of the moments of the tournament. And Ander, if it's not too sore, because he is our Spanish correspondent, a player that did stand out to you against yourselves?
Oh yeah, Yacine Bono, without a shadow of a doubt. I think, obviously Amrabat and Unahi were tremendous, but since they were already mentioned, I'm going to go with the goalkeeper. He was the Golden Glove of last season in La Liga for Sevilla. So no, I think he was tremendous in this tournament. I think he was one of the pillars of the team. He's really an infectious personality, smile, great leader of the defense, great kind of like conductor of the defense, so to speak. And I think he did awesome against Spain, obviously, against Portugal, where he had to actually face a few shots, which he really didn't have to against Spain until the penalty shootout. I think he was just tremendous in every possible way. I think at Sevilla, he's already proven he has a lot of top end quality. He's probably not completely suited to be like a completely elite at the level of Thibaut Courtois or someone along those lines in world football, but he is, I think, not far removed from that. And I think overall he was just so key, so instrumental for Morocco to advance how they did, and with his incredible stops again Spain in the shootout, Portugal, and then a few against France, and obviously in the group stage he was just tremendous.
Nice. And Adam, we've kind of picked them all, but you get to pick one more. Who are we going for?
I'm going to go with Boufal. I feel like
my guy.
He was the guy that most impressed me. I think we kind of saw what maybe Southampton looks at him and kind of thought, oh, he could be a really tasty player. But we didn't see that side of him at the Premier League. But certainly as the games kind of came through, I think we saw him blossom and become even stronger with every game. And I think he was very unlucky not to contribute even more towards the end of that tournament. Mention to Walid Khedira as well. Unfortunately, that red card killed off that chaotic,
the most chaotic 5 minutes in World Cup history as he came on and just utter chaos. Big fan of that guy. But Basri, you can choose one player to kind of call out now and just praise one player from the team that you think I love him. Oh, you're on mute. I think you're on mute. Oh no.
There we
go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, sorry, we can hear you now. Yeah.
Can you hear me? All right. I'm going with the captain, with Roman Saiz. Saiz, he's the captain. Yeah, he's the leader. When he went down from injury, we suffered a little bit without him in the games against France and also against Croatia in the third place game. So I go with Roman Saiz, and I don't know if you saw this scene with the coach Regragui. He was like talking to him in the game against Croatia. So he's like a second coach for us. So I'd go with Roman Says. After Benatia, after Mehdi Benatia, it was difficult to find like another good defender. So now with Roman Says, it's great. So it's his.
Oh no!
Oh no! This is a nightmare. We got one question for you as well, Basri, but he's gone. He's gone. Oh, I think we had issues from Rabat last time, but it was great to have him on. Guys, we're going to end with our cards of Qatar, but before we do, we're going to go round one by one. Evra, starting with you. For our viewers, listeners, where can they find you online if they want to keep up with your stuff?
It's the same name, Evra Giro, on all platforms: Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. It's the same name, Evra Giro, EVRAGERAUD.
Beautiful. Thank you for coming on, man. It's been great to have you on. Next, we're going to go Peter.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Santos FC __ Inglés for anything related to the Brazilian club Santos in English. You can also check out my podcast that I host with my buddy Enric. We talk all things Brazilian football. It's called The Smoking Snake. And you can also follow that on Twitter at The Smoking SNK. So yeah,
Nice.
check out those accounts.
Beautiful. And Ander, where can we follow you?
Yeah, and on Twitter at Anders Hoffman. If you just search Ander Iturralde, you'll find me just the same. Yeah, that's basically where I have streamed everything into. Have a Spanish-speaking podcast. If people are into that, are interested. Alineación Indebida. Logo's always there.
There you go.
Always
We can see it. It's
in the
right
background. Always subliminal. Have to keep up the promotion. Never stops. 24/7. And so yeah, you can go check that out. Alineación Indebida if you want to work on your Spanish. And yeah, everything else is just basically on Twitter. And I have a Substack too that I try to post semi regularly. Ander.substack.com for longer form football writing.
Nice. And Basri, very, very quickly, can Morocco win the AFCON upcoming? And how can we follow you on social media?
I hope so. The next game, the next competition is going to be in Ivory Coast. So I hope so. We haven't won this cup since '76. We are more like a team for the World Cup. Yeah, we are more into the World Cup more than the African Cup because we have many players raised in Europe, so they are more comfortable playing against European side. But we are African as a people, so we'd love to win the African Cup for the second time in our history. So I hope so in Ivory Coast. If not, in the next edition, I think we're going to organize it here in Morocco. So I hope we're going to win it here.
Very nice. And Basri,
you can follow me in Twitter and Instagram, Basri Ayoub, if you want some news about Morocco football. So yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, guys. Well, thanks for coming on the show. And for now, as always, we're going to end with our partnership with Cards of Qatar, where we tell 3 stories of 3 migrant workers who lost their lives in the build-up to this tournament.
Thank you, Rory. So we'll start off by telling the story of Anush Gurung. When Jagan Gurung's son, Anish Gurung, turned 18, he went abroad. I told him to get married and build a life here at home, but he refused, says father Jarang Gurung. The family paid a recruiter and he started as a construction worker in Qatar. He was sitting in the front seat next to the driver when they collided. The father says that it feels as if the son will call him on the mobile phone at any time, and that he therefore keeps it charged and within reach. I'm just waiting for him to call and say, Amma, Baba, although he died on the way to his workplace. The company has not paid any compensation yet. Next story is Durga Kumara Bahandira. Naharan Prasad Parajila and Durga Kumari Bahandira worked in Qatar, married for 15 years. Our life was good until one day my wife suddenly got a lightning headache, remembers Narayan Prasad Paranjila. At the hospital, the doctors assessed that she had a brain tumor. The treatment started immediately, but she died after 8 months. I still have not told Narayan that his mother is dead. He still thinks she's in hospital and he still texts her personally. I don't think I will ever be happy again, says Naharan Prasad Paranjula. Finally, Kubir Singh Bek. 19 years ago, Sita Kumari's husband, Kubir Singh Bek, travelled to Qatar to secure the future of their 2 daughters and son. Now he would soon be going back home forever. During his last talk with the family, he said that he was done with Qatar, but it was too late. He was wrapped in a box, says the widow, Sita Kumara. According to the family, the company that Kabir Singh Bek gave 19 years of his life did not ensure that he received the necessary care when he became so sick that he died. They forced him to work even when he was sick. Now we are without support and we worry about the future.